Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Sit back, relax, stay sinful. Number 1. Back in 2017, my wife and I moved into a garage apartment that was fairly small, located in an alleyway. Nobody would have known the garage apartment was there unless we invited them over. I had just started a job where I had to print a lot of things off for work. On my own dime, of course. So I had to go buy a printer. I know printers are always sketchy and they almost always have problems, so I just picked a random one up from the store without researching it at all. I was surprised that it had wireless capabilities. I was impressed with the technology. I know 2017 shouldn't have been that impressed, but I was because I hadn't owned a printer since 2008. In order for someone to be able to print something with it, you must be connected to our Wi-Fi. So after having said printer for a while with no issues, I didn't think much about it. One day my wife and I were watching an older TV show. It was Alfred Hitchcock Presents, one of our favorites. It has a lot of great plots and ending twists, similar to The Twilight Zone or Outer Limits. We heard some strange noises coming from the alley. We didn't really care too much about it, because cats roam the area and there are a few people living around us. No big deal, right? About 10 or 15 minutes later, the printer came on and started printing. My wife and I were quite confused looking at each other. As it printed, we could see across the room that there was clearly text on the paper. Neither one of us wanted to read it, because we were scared to death. I finally read it. The paper said, "Why would you two waste your time watching that garbage?" I was scared shitless, even though it was such a weird message. I told my wife and we came to the unfortunate conclusion that somebody was watching us at that very moment. Thinking about it was quite surreal. This person must have hacked our printer. Also, we were on a second story above a garage. The only way you can see in the house was if they were at the same height. The TV was located in front of a window that could really only be seen by one house, but nobody lived in it. We immediately closed all the blinds and talked it over, and decided it must be a prank and went to bed. The next day we were still scared, so we talked to all of our friends that had the Wi-Fi password, but they weren't pranksters, and all of them were at home or out of town. That made us a bit uneasy. A few days go by, and nothing happened again, so we were starting to feel safe in our own home again. But of course, like every creepy story, this person decided to push their luck. The printer lights turn on, lights up and starts printing, this time with another message. Don't go outside, or else something will change your life. That also scared us shitless. Why so vague? Why would someone do this? We called the cops, but they could do nothing. It hasn't happened again for a few weeks, but whoever you are, let's not meet. Story number 2. I've had social media accounts for years now. I was 13 when I got my MySpace, and then moved to Facebook later on. I was always careful not to talk to weirdos and creeps. My profiles were private up until I was 17 or 18. I'm pretty active on my social media profiles, so there's lots of pictures of me and my family. I'm married with kids now, so there's lots of pictures and posts about them too, of course. My profile was not private at this time, but I quickly made it so after this incident. I've come across so many creeps in my life, no big deal. Usually ignored and blocked, right? Apparently that doesn't always solve the problem. A couple months ago I get a weird letter in the mail. It's just a folded piece of paper with a giant pink heart sticker holding it shut. I figure it's something cute from my husband's aunt. She always sends a bunch of cutesy things for the kids. I was very wrong. I open it and a pink piece of paper falls out. I don't read it yet as I'm too distracted by the white paper, which has printouts of almost every picture I had taken since I was 14. Some weren't even on social media, so I have no idea how this man found these. There's a picture of me when I was 12, acting a fool with a leg in the air. There was a cutout of my ass from a picture of me and my husband holding hands back in high school. There was even a loose photo of my little sister when she was only 2 years old. That's when I picked up the pink letter. I wish I hadn't. What I read in that letter was the most disgusting example of vulgarity and pedophilia I've ever witnessed. This man went into great detail about the things he wanted to do to me for years. He asked me to run away with him, asked me to come pick him up from his job I was currently working. Then he started describing the things he wanted to do to my little sister, the 2-year-old sister in the photo. It was so disgusting and vile I almost passed out reading it. My heart sank but almost pounded out of my chest. I started sweating and breathing fast and then ran to my dad and my husband and brother. After much freaking out and tearing up the letters and pictures and throwing them away, my brother did some research. Turns out this guy sent letters like this to a ton of other girls all across the country. Underage girls received sexually explicit letters in the mail, just like mine from the same man. He ended up having a 5-hour standoff with police at his home, which ended in him killing himself the day before my letter arrived at my door. I'm very, very glad we never met. Story number 3. I was walking my dog in the park. It was probably just after 1 p.m. on a weekday, and the weather was quite nice, so there were a fair amount of people wandering around, many of them with young children. My dog and I went on our usual walk, following the path that goes around the park. The majority of the walk was uneventful. However, as we were walking down the hill, I noticed a man standing at the end of the path. As I got closer, I noticed this guy was staring directly at me and smiling. This was not a pleasant smile. That was when I got a real uneasy feeling, and I clearly wasn't the only one, since my dog decided to cut across the grass to rejoin the path further up. This was weird, as usually she follows the path all the way around. We were a fair bit further up the path, but I looked back towards the guy and he started walking. His eyes focused on me. I encouraged my dog to walk a bit faster, which she did. We headed up towards the swimming baths, which were near the park entrance. I was tempted to go in and wait this guy out, but I knew my dog was not supposed to be there. I decided to keep moving. All this time, the guy was still following me. I kept beside the swimming pools until I reached a small hill, where at the top there was a side exit. There were 2 ways I could have went, back into the park, or I could take the exit leading to the football club car park and the main road. I decided to head into the football club, which gave me a place to hide and check if this guy really was following me. Turns out he was. He stopped at the top of the hill and looked around. Clearly, he had no clue which way I turned. Thankfully, he didn't check the football club car park, which to me suggested that he didn't know the area very well. He didn't stick around much longer, and I managed to get away without being seen. A weird experience overall, especially in broad daylight. I have no clue what his intention was, but I'm glad I never had to find out. Story number 4. Roughly 6 years ago, I was working as a carpenter for a small 3-man construction crew in Darlington, South Carolina. We were installing some more support beams in a garage in order for a garage door to be installed in the near future. For some reason or another, our supervisor needed to get into the attic, and the homeowner had left the door unlocked while she was running some errands. Next thing I know, our supervisor is running out of the house, telling us that we need to see this, and that we would be quick about it. Upon entering the attic, there is this god-awful stench of human excrement. It's pungent and hot, over 90 degrees Fahrenheit without question, Dead center of the attic is a really heavy wooden bed, built like a brick. This thing is bolted to the floor with no mattress, and obviously very used. There's a single shackle bolted to the floor with a 5-gallon bucket in reach of the shackle. It was obvious that there was just enough slack in the chain to move between the two. I never got close to it because all of our gag reflexes were in full effect. I remember the feeling of sorrow I had to see this. My heart sank to the floor when my brain fully processed what we were seeing. I can also remember hideous smell very vividly. I ran out of the house. My coworker did as well. We wanted to leave the property, and right then as my supervisor is calming us down, trying to figure out what to do, this older lady pulls up. She looks to be in her mid-70s, maybe late 60s. She was very sweet, but something about her eyes creeped me out. It felt like she was literally staring into your soul. It gave me chills. She reminded me of the lady from the movie Legion, who has very sharp teeth and a very sinister look about her. If you don't know her, just type in "your baby is gonna burn" on YouTube. That's the way she looked like, without the razor teeth. My boss made up a story about us needing to special order something, but would not charge her for the item. We just simply missed something in our estimate and would be back later on in the week to finish it. We packed up our things and were heading out of the driveway when I see her watching us leave through the window that overlooks the driveway from that attic. The whole ride back to the office, there was a dead and eerie silence in the vehicle. What happened in that room? Where was that person now? Were we being watched? Moreover, could there have been another room in that basement? All these questions were racing through my mind in some sort of sick downward spiral that was making me sick to my stomach. You know that taste you get in the back of your throat right before you purge? Anyway, when we got back to the office to drop the work truck off, my boss called the police. He described exactly what happened. A few days later, my wife and I lost our first child, 2 months prior to her due date. We ended up leaving that area to get a fresh start a few days later, and I never followed up again on what happened, or if the police ever showed up. So creepy old lady from Darlington, let's not meet again. Thanks for watching, guys. Please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Sinful Society. I hope everyone's week's starting off with a bang. If you guys want to send me your stories, my email is thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I'll list it in the description box below. Until we meet again, stay sinful.